Good afternoon and welcome. Here are the latest updates on conflicts around the world, including geopolitical happenings that may be of interest to you. Let's get right into it, as there is a massive amount of things happening at this moment. So first and foremost, we're going to kind of go through some happenings from earlier today. Then we'll move on to the more recent items. So the Polish government spokesman, Prime Minister Donald Tusk, will soon begin talks with NATO. The presidents of Ukraine and France, and NATO Secretary General and the ministers of Italy and Great Britain. Drone pics in Poland. And there's some pictures right here, here, and here. Now, this is two Russian multi-purpose UAVs, Gerbia, were found in Poland. One with tail number YY31402 in central Poland, and the other YY32384 after a night of turmoil in Polish airspace. Gerbia drones are typically employed by Russia as decoys or signal relays, also for reconnaissance and electronic surveillance, and can be fitted for strike missions. As well as there's been a rumor that there was an extra fuel tank added to these drones. More on that later. So, this is an unprecedented attack not only on Poland but also on NATO and the EU. A Russian envoy has been summoned, and the US and European partners have been informed. Poland and NATO will not be intimidated. Those are comments from the Foreign Minister of Poland. Washington, White House official tells they are tracking the reports out of Poland. Lithuania, native sources say two flying objects entered Lithuanian airspace at 10 a.m. Wednesday. They were not engaged, and reconnaissance is ongoing. Moscow, the defense ministry says there were no targets planned for destruction on Polish territory. Russian drones that allegedly crossed the Polish border cannot fly more than 700 kilometers. Poland announces that a Russian suicide drone hit the grounds of a Polish military base. Major development, US B-52 bombers have been deployed and have already taken off for Europe. And here's a video showing some flight footage. All right, moving on to the next item. Poland ASMR vid. So here's a video of Germany. So this is German military vehicles are heading to the border with Belarus. So here is a video of Lithuania. There were 8 railway cars that were on fire. Well, you can see the fire, but doesn't want to load. However, the details of this video, it's showing 8 LNG railway cars of Poland's oil and gas giant PKN Orlen are on fire in Lithuania after a major explosion near Vilnius, Lithuania. Russian drones and strange explosions hit Poland's security interests on the same day. Now here's another video of that explosion. And nothing seems to want to load at this moment. I apologize. However, the additional details is train with liquid natural gas exploded in Lithuania. Russian drones in Poland. So, and then there's some personal comments there I won't get into. So, Poland drones found. 15 UAVs have already been found. Now I'm going to show you some pictures. There's a picture. There's a close-up on top of some type of structure. Looks like for animals or something, because you see the little things down there. There's another picture. And then looks like it's the police loading them up, which seems to be what they were doing. All right, there was a major fire in Moscow at a warehouse that received microchips. According to locals, a loud explosion was heard at the site just before the fire broke. And here's footage of that. All right, so I'm going to provide a little bit more footage.
Окна закрой на всякий случай.
All right, let's continue. Sweden health minister. So this apparently happened on the 9th in Sweden. It's the first I happen to have heard about it, and so I thought I'd share it. So the health minister collapsed on live television.
Tack.
Tack för det. Och nu tror jag Jakob ska lära oss allt om paragraf 5-förordnanden. Eller hur, Jakob?
Ja, det tänker jag vi har i en särskild övning möjligen. Hälso- och sjukvården.
So the reason why she collapsed apparently was due to a blood sugar drop that returned shortly after. So that is good to hear, but noteworthy. Poland troops are moving. Poland has started moving troops to the border with Belarus, according to local media. Interesting, the Russian drone attacks on Poland unexpectedly coincided with the start of the Russian military exercises in Belarus and the closure of the border with Belarusians by Poland at night. So here's some footage right here, so you can kind of see the changes. If you want to call it a build-up, you can call it a build-up. So there you have it on that note. Russian Northern Fleet. Russia's Northern Fleet storms into the Arctic with massive drills. Marines hit Alexanderland. Artillery roars and elite units sharpen combat tactics against mock foes. Here's some footage of that. Not sure about the music, so I'm shutting that off. So as you can see, it's a propaganda video showing their preparations, and there you have it. Moving on to Sweden. Sweden is preparing a package of air defense systems and military aircrafts to be stationed in Poland. United Kingdom. United Kingdom is considering sending Typhoon fighter jets to Poland. Warsaw, black helicopters were observed over Warsaw, and here's some video footage from the locals there.
Alpha 3 rounds, 18 delay in effect, 3 guns.
All right, I'm going to turn off the music. All right, moving on here, folks. Belgium. What's going on in Belgium, you may ask? Well, the Belgian Air Force F-16s are currently conducting low-altitude flyover of the Baltic states, just a few dozen kilometers from the Russian border. The aircraft have already been seen in Latvia and Estonia. Russian gas lines. Got some footage for you. So, with the attack by the drones on an oil refinery in the Rostov region, basically led to kilometer-long queues at local gas stations.
Потому что я тебе говорю, завтра мы будем придумывать или вечером, где взять дизель. Вчера мне повезло, я заправил полностью.
All right, there's that footage on the Crimea Peninsula. So, according to some reports, as noted here, the Shalevo airfield, 6 units of stationary launchers of UAV, Shahed 136 in Gerbia. Okay, so what they're indicating is that this may be the launch point for those drones located in Crimea. So here is essentially this is the airbase and the runway that they suspect they were launched from. that went into Poland and other places. Ukrainians bombed the occupier Space Communication Center in Crimea in the village of Ventio using rocket drones. And here's some footage for you.
Прилет по прицелу.
So there's that footage, folks. Some Yemen updates. Israeli strikes Yemen's capital. The strikes targeted Houthi military bases and hubs. There are no official comments from IDF yet. Actually, so here's some pictures. Now moving on here. Here's a video of the Israeli raids. All right, so now, citing military sources reported that the raids on Yemen today targeted military camps, fuel depots, and Houthi media headquarters, the Israeli defense minister indicated. They stated that we promised more strikes, and today we dealt another painful blow to the Houthis in Yemen. Now moving on to France. Across France, protesters are trying to block everything slogan from the public transport to train stations, with large-scale rallies taking place across the country right now. Now, that's according to Reuters. Many demonstrators have expressed their anger at President Macron. So here's some video footage of that. Now, here's some additional footage. So it appears pretty serious situation with some civil unrest going on in France. No more to come on that if it doesn't simmer down quickly. All right, moving on to the next item. Poland no-fly zone. No-fly zone has been established in Poland's eastern border. And I wanted to give you a visual of where that no-fly zone, what it looks like. So here you go. So you can kind of see from the northern region here, just on the other side of Augusta, and it pretty much just goes along this entire border here on the eastern front. Now I see a bit of yellow here on the eastern side of Warsaw. However, at the moment, I'm not sure if that's just an error or if there's some protection or no-fly zone on the eastern side of Warsaw. So I'm not really sure what that looks like at the moment, but that's what's happening in Poland. Chechnya. So there's been an announcement from them. Poland asks for help, and Chechnya answers. Based on a request made by Poland Defense Minister, Chechnya will deploy 3 M171 SFSOF-2 helicopters from Special Operations Task Force Unit of the Czech Air Force 22nd Helicopter Base and they will provide up to 150 soldiers. So here's a visual of those helicopters. That's actually a nice picture right there, kind of like that. And then additional helicopters. Just some pictures here. All right, so moving on. Unverified, but I do feel that this is noteworthy. Evidence is suggesting a potential Russian plan to use a nuclear bomb in Poland to deter NATO from supporting Ukraine. Some reports indicate that Belarus could be used as a proxy in actions that might challenge NATO's resolve. If such events occur, Europe and NATO should not back down and must respond decisively by targeting Moscow and St. Petersburg with every available bomb. So take that information as you will. But there's some information coming out to exactly what I stated. And it's very critical that, there's a fine line between fear mongering and what may be happening behind the scenes. But due to the situation that has been unfolding, those comments are serious comments. And if there is actual, real, tangible background evidence suggesting this, this is a very serious matter. I'll leave it up to you to digest that information as you will. Now, moving on to Nepal. Now, I haven't covered Nepal up to this point, but there's some interesting information that's gone on today, and essentially the end of the communists in Nepal. Or at least that's how it's being branded. So here's some footage of the Parliament building. I'm killing the music because I don't want to get burned by YouTube. Here's some additional footage. Maybe you're asking what's going on in Nepal. I'll get right to it here. Just trying to provide the information. So the youths in Nepal celebrated with the army for defending them from being attacked by the police. All right, continuing the coverage here. So Nepal citizens capture communist politicians and throw them into the river. Now moving on to more items in Nepal. So this is really going to kind of tell you the lead up. Essentially, the citizens were sick of the government, and they went to the streets. The police tried to fight them. The army stepped in to support the citizens. When it was all said and done, they lit up the Parliament building and started throwing away the politicians into the river. Hence the end of the communists in Nepal as it's being described now. Here's some additional items on Nepal. speaks for itself. So, Israel threatens more attacks against Qatar. Israel threatens Qatar with more airstrikes. And as you know, or you may not know, that has occurred that has already occurred. And for some reason, I don't have all of that. But essentially, what has occurred today is there was some attacks on the capital in Yemen today. And during that, they attacked media and several Houthi leadership and some infrastructure with airstrikes. And the Israelis have come out and said, we're going to keep doing this. Essentially, any country that houses these terrorists, they will go in and they will destroy them. There has been some blowback from other countries, but more to come on that at another time. Now, moving on to Venezuela, at least 19 aircraft so far, mostly tagged private owners, suddenly departed Maturin in Venezuela and a rare conga line heading to the capital. Now, moving on to the Gaza Strip, or just south of the Gaza Strip, there were airstrikes that hit the center of Khan Yunis, south of the Gaza Strip today. Now, as you see, it was a lot of news today. Tried to go through it as fast as I possibly could to respect your time. But that's the end. There you have it, folks. That's the news updates for this afternoon. Thanks for listening or watching Caffeine News. Bye-bye for now.